Hello, Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. I'm so happy you're here. You know, this has been something that you have your bucket list or your wish list. This meeting has meant more than just about, if not any meeting we've had, because it's about us. It's about our community. It's about our health. It's not really even, the birthday, okay, cool, 5 years, I'm really happy, and birthday to me. Okay, we're done. But the point is that it's about you, the members. It has been about you, the members, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, every single minute, because again, I look back and I say, I was truly given a miracle. I made a promise that I would give back. I've given back. I will continue to give back. I will always give back. And the message is simply, we must tell everyone that they have an option. What they do with it is totally up to them. But here in our group, with our small groups, with our volunteers, our wonderful hosts, and all you, the members, I want to personally thank you so much for making this, a special evening for me. So thank you, okay? Thank you. And the organization today is over 6,100 members. Yep, thank you. Not too shabby. I mean, listen, as I look back, and I'm being honest and straight, which is, 6,000, wow, like in 5 years, that's so amazing. But, it's still kind of looked at kind of on a niche-y kind of thing, I mean, I guess if we were just a straight vegan organization, and I don't care how you get to health, if you do it because of animals or the planet, bless you. If you do it because you just want to be healthier, bless you for that. But, as I look back 5 years, we've made great strides, but still, it's still tough. It's tough. This lifestyle is tough. It's so worth it. It is so worth it. I mean, come on, tell me what is, okay, I'll trade you. Let's see, spare ribs, pizza loaded, and Hershey Kisses for health. I'll take the health. It doesn't matter. Everything comes back to, you should feel healthy. I'm just going to throw a random thought, which is, there's no way you could really judge if it's worth it until you try it. I'm a fan. I'm going to tell everybody. Hey, by the way, I'm going to the Peapod conference. 36 doctors, Dr. Breaky, Sherry's going to be here, all with initials, and little old me. And I'm going to go in front of them and say that maybe they could do it differently. What do you think? They're going to invite me back? I don't think so. But the point is that you have to go 60 days. I think 60 days is the right amount of time. You could do it. Anybody could do it if you had to, because then you'll be at a point of true health. Your taste buds will change. You'll drop 30 pounds. Your numbers will drop. And then, you're not going to want to give that up for anything. But again, this organization is built on no judgment. It will always be built on no judgment. So I just say, give it your best. And if it doesn't work, keep trying. And we love you, and we don't judge you. New on the website. So if you go on the website and you have a question for a nutritionist, we have it. It's called the Dietitian is in. Timmery is just amazing. If you have questions, you could go right on the website and ask it. We have something called Want to Thrive. So for the younger people in attendance, you have questions about whole food plant-based. Catherine Palms can answer your questions. And of course, the doctor is in, which is Dr. Breaky, will answer just kind of generic questions. So, we're here for you, and we're going to continue doing that. There's still some needs as the organization, grows. We still need a director for restaurants. It's kind of funny, I say that every month, don't I? It's pretty funny. But basically, if you go out to dinner and you find that you could have a whole food plant-based oil, just tell the restaurant person to, take a picture, describe it, give me a price, and send it to me, paul@pbnsg.org. And we'll put them on the website. Most times people charge. We're doing it for free because we want our members to be able to go out and enjoy themselves. So I've decided I don't want a director. I'm hiring all of you here. That's your job, okay? So if you go out to dinner and you can find a whole food plant-based, no oil, then just give me a shout, okay? It's good for you because the more restaurants we get, the more options we have. It's good for the restaurant. I will say I just added one because I told you I'm going to keep adding them in my little neighborhood. It's called Yatsuba, the new Yatsuba. It's a sushi restaurant. You call a day ahead. They got some great sushi stuff. I mean, I can't believe I'm eating sushi again without fish. No oil, 100% whole grain, brown rice. Okay, So as I wrap this up, I want to say, living is all about health, love, laughter, and sharing. So as I wrap this up and hand it over to Dr. Breaky, I want to leave you with a few laughs, definitely a few groans. So we start with, did you hear about the new whole food plant-based restaurant in space? Well, the food is great, but there's no atmosphere. I get that after 2 hours of research. Okay, that's cool. That's good. Okay, I up my game. Okay. Hey, do you guys know how to make gold soup? You know how to make gold soup? You put 24 carats in it. Okay, I say over under groans. Okay, I'm okay. Hey, by the way, if you have 8 apples in one hand and 8 oranges in the other, what do you have? Really big hands. All right. So I appreciate it that you appreciate my jokes. I understand I try to do it just because I'm a goofball at heart and I like to have fun. And life should not always be so darn serious. Let's face it, I live a whole food, plant-based, no oil life. It's still tough, okay? It's just not easy. It's still tough. That's why I like laughter, because it reminds me of what is important, which is being here with you, watching my son get up on stage. Pressure, and so without further ado, because I could ramble all day, and I'm not going to, I would like to introduce my friend, Dr. Robert Breaky. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So I want to invite you all to my 100th birthday party. We don't yet quite have a venue or an exact date, but put it somewhere in your calendar toward the end of 2055. It's going to be a big shindig. Let me tell you about my 50th. See, I was born in Hawaii, so I had a huge 50th birthday party, 130 people at my house. We had hula dancers, we had tiki bar, we had exotic pets, we had a mechanical surfboard, and that was just warm up for my 100th. Okay. Now, I don't want you all coming in on wheelchairs and stretchers either, so take good care of yourselves. Listen carefully tonight, because it's there for us, folks. It's all there for us to enjoy longevity and quality of life. See, my grandma lived to be 101. We had a big birthday party for her. My daughters both sang at her party, and they've promised to sing at my 100th birthday party, too. They're going to be in their late 60s. And my grandma was a very special person. She grew up a Quaker in Pennsylvania, and then grew up on a farm, and took good care of herself, didn't eat any processed food, didn't smoke or drink. But she also told us things that seemed kind of strange, like they used to deliver big blocks of ice and put them in this thing called an ice box instead of a refrigerator. We said, wow, that's how you had to keep your food cold back then. It seemed strange to us. Well, see, a lot is changing over time, and what seems strange to one generation is normal to another. So that when our kids, when my parents told us, cars didn't even used to have seat belts. Like they weren't even in there in the 40s and 50s. I said, wow, that doesn't seem safe. And remember, when I told my kids, they used to have smoking in hospitals and airplanes. Like, wow, it just doesn't seem safe. Well, now I picture a time at my birthday party when my granddaughter, who's 2 now, is trying to explain to her kids how they used to serve hot dogs at baseball games. What? Doesn't seem safe. That pizza used to have cheese on it. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That PBNSG used to be less than 2 million members. What? I mean, you see, a lot of people picture these next 30, 40 years as time of kind of doom and gloom, of global warming, climate change taking over the world, of spiraling healthcare costs from chronic disease going out of control, taking over our economy, of millennials not even wanting to have kids. I was out visiting my cousin in Salt Lake City this weekend, and her 4 kids are thinking they shouldn't even have kids because the world's coming to such a foreboding place. Well, I don't think so. I think the world is changing quickly for the better, and you all are evidence for that. I first went plant-based in 1977. Haven't had a bite of meat since then. And wow, a lot of changes. Back then, you used to have to get soy milk from the co-op and information from handouts there. Now, widely available documentaries, books, information, such that telling people that you're plant-based now is more like, wow, I wish I could do that, instead of, oh, you're weird. You see it in restaurants now. The chief of staff of St. Joe's Hospital moved out to Utah, so I texted him when I was out there last week on a ski trip, say, are there any good vegan restaurants here in Salt Lake City? He said, yes, my partner, he goes to this one called Zest. We ate there 5 days ago. Great restaurant if you're out in Salt Lake City. They're springing up all over, places that focus not just on comfort vegan junk food, but on real, healthy, whole, real food all over the place. Very different than when I started this. You see it in terms of education. Even my colleagues are beginning to come around. I've given out about 30 copies of How Not to Die to many of my colleagues, and at least 6 of them now are all in plant-based, telling their patients, spreading the word to our other colleagues. The International Conference for Nutrition on Medicine in Washington, D.C., sponsored by PCRM, used to be a little 300 or so. Last year we had over 1,000 people. It was sold out at the Grand Hyatt. And these are physicians from all over the world coming together to learn about plant-based nutrition, to see how the future of medicine will change that foreboding picture to one that includes health, longevity, stable climate, and a much better world for not only our grandchildren, but their children and generations to come. And it's really starting here at the grassroots. It's not going to come from big industry. It's not going to come from those who have a stake in keeping the things the way they are. It's going to come from all of us. And that's why, as Paul said, today's very special to me too, because it's really about you, about open mic time, about sharing your stories. Because often the statistics, the fact that 70 to 80% of chronic disease can be prevented and in many cases reversed, the healthcare costs that go with that could be eliminated, that we could change our society. All of those statistics kind of lose the central point that these are real people, that people change in their lives and those of their loved ones around them for the better. I see many of my patients here appreciate your coming. I see many friends and others who I've gotten to know. And this is a time, I think, of great celebration, of seeing that a group like this comes together to celebrate health, life, and the future of what I think will be a great future for my grandkids and all of us at my 100th birthday party. So put it down. Paul, you'll be there. You'll only be 99, so be good. Yeah. Some of you are going to be 120, I see, but that's okay. Keep eating broccoli. Let's move next to, again, being part of our program. I also, I give talks like this a lot, and sometimes I like to use examples. So I'm going to take some notes during your talks here, and if at some point you might want me to kind of put your picture and your story up on the big screen, come to me afterwards, let me know, because it's great to have these stories to be able to share with others as well. First, though, let's invite our greatest inspirers, Tim and Heather Kaufman. Come on up.
So hello there, I am Tim Kaufman. I'm just recovering from ankle reconstruction. I'm doing really well with it. Thank you guys for showing up here tonight. It's always a pleasure to get out here. I love PBNSG. In my opinion, this should be like the gold standard for community groups. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit jealous of this group, so. We good? Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to set a timer because... I got you, buddy. Stand up. We're good. All right. I'll set my own too, just in case you're cheating. So before I start, though, I wanted to show you guys a picture I took last week, or maybe a little more than a week. I live in Buffalo, okay, so this is the beautiful shore of Lake Erie, where we live. And I have lived there for 45 years. I've never seen this anomaly before. You guys know what this is? This is ice, right? So the lake is supposed to be flat. We have a flat lake, just like you guys. And what happens, we had a terrible windstorm a couple weeks ago, and it pushed all the ice up onto our shore. And what I noticed when I was doing the map to get here, that this is actually your ice. And I'm kind of sick of winter, so if you guys could come get this and take it back, it will be great. This is a very different presentation for me. In fact, when I emailed this to Brett, he thought there were something missing from it because there's no words. I do share my story quite often, and I usually take people through my whole entire journey. I've been on quite a journey, but I always start my presentations out with, this is out there for anyone. There's nothing special about me. I didn't do anything crazy. I literally am a fat guy that ate a bunch of apples. But I want to do something different today, and I don't know if it's going to work. And I figured this is a really good place to try it because if I screw it up, there's like 20 amazing stories, like all in line after me, so you guys will forget this if I screw up. But what I decided to do, literally like a couple days ago, is instead of sharing my whole story, I want to share 2 days with you guys. I want to share what life was like for me about 10 years ago, one day, and then I want to fast forward to a day this past summer. And so, obviously, my day starts out waking up in the morning. And this is about 10 years ago. I'm going to walk you through this day. It was a very important day for me. And like every day, I didn't want to get out of bed. I just wanted to stay there. And Heather would kind of shake me. I never woke up to an alarm clock or anything, but Heather would kind of shake me and encourage me that I'm going to be late if I don't get up soon. And I swung my feet around, hit the floor. My head was spinning, really foggy. I was dehydrated. I felt like absolute crap. I was addicted to painkillers, and believe it or not, just the window going to bed, I was already waking up in the morning with withdrawal symptoms. Not crazy withdrawal, but I knew I needed to get some opioids. So the first thing I did in the morning was go to my dresser where I kept my pills. And I took a handful of pills, some of which were opioids, but other ones were blood pressure medicines, a couple of those, Indocin, some cholesterol medicine, and basically a handful of pills, and this is how I started my morning out. And I made my way to the bathroom, and just things like getting dressed was a big chore for me because I wore braces, and so I had to try to get my braces underneath my pants, and doing all this at 400 pounds was literally a cardio workout. I made my way out to the kitchen where I was going to get ready to leave for work. And as a young man, 35 years old, supposed to be a tough guy, my wife had to put my socks and shoes on me so I could get into my truck because I just couldn't get down there to do it. You can imagine this is kind of a painful place to be mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I did not like where I was. And after I left the house, I would get in my pickup truck, and even something like that, I can remember it taking sometimes 4 or 5 tries to bring that seatbelt around and try to latch it, and it would almost latch, then I have to start over. And again, after 4 or 5 tries, I would sit there, and believe it or not, I'd have to catch my breath because I was winded. My handicap parking pass was like my salvation. It meant that I didn't have to walk real far, and I didn't. So I got in my truck, and the first thing I did, the first thing that was on my mind is to stop for my fast food. I did this every morning. Usually it was 2 or 3 sausage, biscuit, and egg sandwiches. And this was really like my reason to get out of bed, basically. It's embarrassing to talk about it, but it is. And as I went to work, I was a very good functioning alcoholic and addict. I did my job quite well, but there was a price to pay for that. It took 100% of my energy and effort to do my job as a teacher. And I would teach a couple classes, and about an hour and a half later, I was so exhausted that actually I would have a stack of phone books on my desk so I could come in and lay my head down and take a quick nap. And I was absolutely wiped out from 2 45-minute sessions of teaching. The day went on, and I would leave work and go right back to a fast food place. And the weird thing is, as I'm eating fast food, I'm on the phone calling our order in for pizza and wings. When we got home, we never ate at home. We always did takeout food, or we went to restaurants. We never bought and cooked at home. It was just the way our life was. And as I got home, one of the biggest challenges of my day, and looking back, this sounds so ridiculously stupid, but there was a set of stairs between me and getting into my house. And that set of stairs is funny because Saturday we just did a stair climb event, and I actually climbed it in my crutches, and I did like 28 floors in I think 12 minutes on crutches. But this set of stairs was way more scary than what I did Saturday. And there were days that I could only get up halfway, and I got in the habit of like resting halfway, and that was fine. And as time went on, I actually caught myself turning around and sitting down in that middle step just to get my breath, to get myself back up into the house. That was my normal day. That was my routine. But this day was a little bit different. See, this day, we came home at 8, and I had a doctor's appointment at about 5 o'clock. And I was on my way to the doctor because I was all signed up and ready to go for bariatric surgery. So this was supposed to be a rubber stamp from my doctor. When I got to the appointment, my blood pressure was 255/115. My resting heart rate was 125. My doctor was freaking out. And right then and there, he denied me for the surgery. One of the problems was with the Ehlers-Danlos disease that I have, he was really worried that my joints would just kind of collapse if I made it through the surgery. And I was on so much medicine. In 2009, the insurance company spent almost $20,000 just on pharmaceuticals for me. I was in canes and crutches and braces. I was a mess. I was a medical mess. I came home that night, and I had zero hope left. I thought I was going to die. There were nights that I would go to bed and I didn't think I was waking up. And so I started doing this thing every single night. This was not just for this night. Before I went to bed, I would take a handful of pills, usually about 15 to 20 tablets of opioids. Along with that, I was on the max dose of fentanyl. And then on top of that, I found myself drinking an entire liter of vodka every single night. This was my life. This is what I did. I did this for years. I don't know how I'm alive today. And I knew I had this down so good that I could drink that vodka really fast, and I knew I had just enough time to get to the bathroom, wash my face, brush my teeth, and get back to bed before the spin started. And I got back to bed that night. Before I did that, I actually looked in the mirror. And what I saw in the mirror was something that I actually hated. I hated seeing myself. I hated where I was. I don't know how I got there. I feel like I just woke up one day and I was a 400-pound addict. And I went to the bed and I sat on the edge of the bed, and I didn't know if I was going to wake up in the morning. And that didn't bother me as much as the fact that I don't know if I cared. And there was a day about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and 3 things changed for me. The first thing that changed is I found gratitude. I was so hung up in bitterness, all I thought about is what I needed and what I wanted, and I never was thankful for what I already had. The other thing that changed was my food. I went from fast food and the crappiest food you can imagine to a whole food, plant-based diet. And the last thing that changed for me was movement. I couldn't move much. I couldn't move really good with the disease that I have, but I could do something. And those 3 things spurred this change that led me to the day that I want to talk to you about now. This day, Heather didn't have to wake me up because I couldn't sleep. 3 o'clock in the morning, I laid there waiting for her alarm to go off so I could get up because I didn't want to wake her up. And I felt like a kid at Christmas. My heart was beating fast, but it wasn't because I was unhealthy or unfit, because we weren't at home. We were in our new favorite place, our second home, Lake Placid. And we weren't staying in my bedroom. We were staying at Summit Lake, which we had stayed at so many times. In fact, just 2 weeks before this day, My wife and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. After we went for a run, we climbed up a mountain quick to get some scenes up there. But this day was different. I wasn't there for my anniversary. I was there to hang out with two of my best friends because we had worked hard all year for a really special day. As I lined up to the water at Mirror Lake, I'd never learned how to swim. In 35, 40 years, I'd never been in a pool. But I was about ready to take off for my first Ironman at Placid. And to get in the water and feel what that felt like with all the other athletes. And every time I took a breath to look up at the mountains, and I knew that I had summited many of those mountains. I can't explain how that made me feel. As I got out of the swim, I got on my bike to start my 4,000 feet vertical climb around Lake Placid. Many of the roads I had been on before because we hiked there. And I'd have athletes all over the place, athletes from all over the world on these same roads that I was sharing. And as I finished my 56-mile bike ride, I parked my bike and I started off on my run. And I couldn't help think that my doctor told me when I was 25, I was supposed to be in a wheelchair. And I'm running Lake Placid with all these amazing athletes. And at the end of the run, you kind of come back, it's an out and back, and you kind of come back around into Lake Placid, and that's where the Olympics happen. And I can remember seeing, Ironman Village, and, it wasn't just that this was Ironman, this is where the Olympics happen. Miracles happen here. People's dreams came true. And I was on those courses where those athletes were, and it was an amazing thing. And you finish the course around the speed skating oval, and they tell me all the time in these races to just keep visioning the finish line, right? That's how you get to the finish. My finish line was different than everyone else's, though. This is what everybody thought my finish line was. But really, my finish line was about 20 feet the other side of that. My finish line was actually my best friend in the whole world. A friend that probably should have left me a long time ago. A friend that watched me throw up so many times on myself and saw me through withdrawals and saw me committing slow suicide. And for years, I had seen sympathy in my wife's eyes for me. But this day, they were just full of pride. She was proud of me. Sorry. So later on, we got some food to eat, we cleaned up, and I went to bed. And I sat back on the edge of the bed, and I thought for a minute, why me? I mean, why does this happen to me? It wasn't too long ago I was a 400-pound cripple guy. How did I get here? It seems like just yesterday I was fighting to stay alive. And now all of a sudden I just finished Ironman 70.3 in Lake Placid. And I started this whole thing out with telling you guys that anybody can do this. And it's true. I'm a crippled addict. And if I can eat plants and do this, my whole life was meat. And if I can get off the couch and do this, this is out there for anyone. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks, man.
Tim, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much. And you'll be around for my 100th birthday party. I know you will. Leslie, come on up.
Oh, sorry. Is Heather going? Okay.
Hi, my name is Leslie DeReamer, and I am the Director of Volunteers for PBNSG, as well as a small group host. That was an amazing story. That was a big story. I don't have a big story. I have a small story that led to a very big, happy, healthy life. I've always been an athlete all through my early years. I lettered in high school in track and tennis, and then I kept running as an adult through college, marriage, 3 children. I became a teacher and then an elementary school principal. But as the years went by and I continued to run, I started having problems with my knees. And it got so bad, I had to go to the doctor, which I rarely do. And after some x-rays and MRI, I was told I have arthritis and that I needed to stop running and that I needed to start walking. And the only way to control the inflammation and the pain was to take medication. Well, I wasn't the researcher and advocate for my health at that time, so I listened to my doctor, and I still ran when I could, but it was still very painful. And I wish I could say I did research and I became a plant-based eater, but I didn't. One day I was in a bookstore, and a title caught my eye. It was called Skinny Bitch, and if you've ever read this book, it is hilarious. Well, I didn't know it was all about becoming a vegan. And so after I finished reading that book, it set me on to another book by John Robbins, Diet for New America and The Food Revolution, and T. Colin Campbell and the China Study. And so I just started reading more and more, and it was like a switch had been flipped. I became a vegan overnight. At that time, it wasn't whole food plant-based. I became a vegan. Not just a vegan, but a militant raw food vegan for 2 years. And so my journey started there. But I had a tragedy that happened to me after a couple of years. My husband, who was an avid cyclist, I used to run and then throw the bikes in, do 20 miles. One day I had to take my dog to the vet, and I wasn't with him, which was very rare. He was hit by a truck, and he did not survive. So that was a very hard time for me. But my children and my grandchildren really helped me through that time. But another group really helped me, and that was my vegan friends who I was growing a network of them. In fact, 3 weeks after my husband was killed, I signed up for a nutrition class. I became a raw food nutritionist, and that really helped me. All of my focus was in my hobby of nutrition and being the principal that I was, because that was very important to me. But as time went on, I evolved and became a plant-based eater. 4 years ago, I came to a PBNSG event, and it was awesome. I was in a room full of people who thought like me. And then I went and joined a small group. In fact, Lauren, who's here taking pictures, was the host of that small group, and that's where I met Paul. And we really hit it off, and he asked me to be the director of volunteers. And so what I say to you is life happens, and hopefully if you are not on that journey, that health journey, hopefully hearing the stories tonight will get you on that journey, because everyone deserves a happy, healthy life. Thank you.
We are also fortunate to have Heather Kaufman here. Heather, come on up.
Thank you. I'm going to put this here so I don't drop it. Hi, thank you for asking us to come to PBNSG, and we are so glad for what you guys do here. Thank you, Paul. It's an honor to be here. My name is Heather Kaufman, and I just wanted to share with you some of my story. Me and Tim got married, and we started dating very young. We got married very young, and I got pregnant with our son right away, and I gained over 70 pounds. And I then would lose some weight and try to eat a little healthier. Then I became pregnant with my daughter, so added more weight on. And I would still try, to lose some weight here or there, walk, and try to be healthy, but didn't think I was too unhealthy. And so Tim had started his journey a while down the road. And while he was eating his food, we were still eating our pizza and wings and subs. And I wasn't sure where Tim would go. I supported him in his journey. And slowly we started tasting his food, which was really good. And we would start having veggie pizzas and incorporating a little more salads and things. And then one day, me and Tim were walking through the mall, and I had a cramp in my side, and I didn't think too much of it, but I had gone a couple weeks later to my gynecologist, and he said that I had a fibroid the size of a softball. And I said, well, is it, cancerous, non-cancerous? He said, non-cancerous. And I said, okay, well, I don't want any surgery. Let's kind of just watch it and see what happens. And so about 6 months later, I went to my primary doctor, and he said, you have a fibroid. And I said, well, yeah, but we're watching it, and just leave it. And he said, well, I'm concerned. I would like to see if it's affecting any of your other organs. And so I went and got a CAT scan, and it said that it was the size of a grapefruit, and it was pushing on the right ureter to my right kidney. So he strongly urged that I have surgery. And so I said, well, my daughter's high school graduation's coming up, so it has to be in between that and her graduation party, thinking I wouldn't have to have it then, and well, that's how it happened. And so I went in and I had the surgery, and I ended up having to have a total hysterectomy. And that night, it brought back a lot of memories of my mom's long battle with cancer. She had leukemia, which turned into lymphoma, and then a brain tumor, and she lost her battle. And I just remembered all the things that she had gone through. So in the morning when Tim came in, I said, I want to be whole food plant-based. I want to be healthy. I don't ever want to come back to a hospital again. If there's anything that I can do to keep me out of here, that's what I want to do. So I've always just focused on my health. I've lost 90 pounds. I've not focused on the scale. I'm active. I like to hike. I like to walk. I even found I can be outside in the winter, and it's really okay. And I found I like running, so I really found my love of running, and I found I even have a little bit of a competitive side. And we go on lots of adventures now. We're happy to be healthy and living a wonderful life, and the food and things that we put in our body can either harm us or fuel us for good. I choose good, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Heather. Let's go with Rihanna. Come on up.
You've been my inspiration for many years, so thank you. Hello. Just one sec. Pulling up the speech. Okay. Hi, my name is Rihanna Getting Chappelle. I am 21, and plant-based eating has changed my life. Changing my lifestyle has just been the biggest, I guess, blessing that I've ever done. So my passion for utilizing lifestyle to optimize wellness began when I was 15 years old. My grandpa had the book How Not to Die by the one and only Dr. Greger laying around his house, and I was bored, and so I decided to pick it up and read it, and I read the whole thing in one day. While reading, I was fascinated that the keys to prevention and even reversal of disease were literally at my fingertips. But I thought to myself, was it too good to be true? Because all this sounded great, just changing the way I eat, changing the things that I did. Could they really make me feel better? So I decided to implement all of the things that he said, and to my astonishment, my life literally changed. From that day on, I implemented the information. I went from being depressed, overweight, and fatigued, suffering with severe anxiety, depression, and IBS. I was overweight, and so just to paint a picture for you guys, literally, I was 16, and I felt so depressed every single day. I was bloated, literally out to here. I didn't want to get out of bed. Life was really hard. I wondered, what the point of living was. Like, I was so young, I felt horrible all the time, and it was all the way that I was living. It was from being stressed, it was from eating processed food. And when I started eating more plants, moving my body, practicing gratitude, practicing stress management, everything changed. Sorry, I get a little nervous. Just a sec. Since that moment, I decided to dedicate my life and future career towards making this information accessible to everyone. I am an aspiring lifestyle medicine physician, hoping to one day heal patients in the most holistic with a W, science-based way. The power of getting optimal rest, meditating, vitalizing our cells by consuming plentiful water and whole plant-based foods as fuel, moving our bodies, and being involved in supportive relationships like PBNSG, thanks Paul, and having a sense of purpose is the most powerful prescription on the planet for the mind, body, and soul. Bonus that our earth can thrive with us too, and no animals are harmed in the process. Optimal health is not in a pill, and it's not a secret formula. You don't have to be rich, and there is no age limit. You can be the leader, and you can call the shots. And the best time to start is now. Thank you.
You're great. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Let's invite next. Cheryl, come on up. There she is.
Thank you. Oh, got some pictures. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Bright lights. I'm going to stand out here so I can see everybody. I've been coming to these large meetings for the last 3 years. I've tried to make as many as I can. My name is Cheryl, I can guess. I've been a nurse for 43 years. I'm going to retire. I'll be turning 65 in 3 months. So I didn't ever think 6 years ago I would be ever make 65 years old. 6 years ago was a pivotal moment in my life where I had some significant health issues. I actually had a list of comorbidities that would stack up like an index in a large book. That I had everything you can think of. I had autoimmune diseases. I had ulcerative colitis. And 6 years ago, that picture on your left was at my mom's funeral, right after her funeral. I stopped weighing myself at 243 pounds. So that's what I tell everybody. But I was a little bit heavier than that. But my BMI was 43. And 3 weeks after that, her funeral, I ended up in the hospital, spent most of 6 months, multiple hospitalizations with abscesses in my colon, requiring 2 surgeries, and treatment for bacteria-resistant, antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. So that was my pivotal moment, excuse me. I was on a multiple medication. And I reached a point in my health crisis that I decided if I was going to survive this, I was going to take control. I would tell people I was taking control of my own life. But truthfully, if I was going to die, I want to take control of that as my last thing that I did for myself, because I didn't take care of myself for at least 3.5 decades. And I feel shameful and angry at myself for that, because I was in healthcare for 43 years. I should know better, right? So from that point on, I stopped all my medication, including my biologics for my ulcerative colitis. I reached an aha moment when I stopped eating gluten and felt better within 3 days. And I thought, oh my gosh, that was my aha moment. And I decided that food was my medicine. That kind of just clicked in my brain, and I made radical changes. To me, it was radical because I ate poorly and unhealthy. So As I became vegan, and as I educated myself on what was healthy eating, because you could be unhealthy vegan, which I was initially, eating the processed vegan foods, I felt better. I had energy I hadn't had in 4 decades. As I felt better, I thought, I lived each life like it was my last day. So I started competitive swimming, which I did in high school and loved it. I did my first triathlon a year after my health crisis, and I came in first. I've done 5 triathlons since then. I try to do one every year. Thank you. Plus, I swim at a state level, and I've competed in nationals twice. I've qualified for also in June. When I retire, I'll compete in Albuquerque. But my point is my quality of life. I've just started living my life 6 years ago. This has been so life-changing to my life, my relationships, my families, you change inside. And it's more than health, your mind, it's everything, your whole aura. One other thing that I want to say is that the amazing thing, the most amazing thing was my taste buds rebooted, and I've never enjoyed food this much in my life. And when people would say, "What do you eat?" There's 25,000 plants that I could eat, and spices and seasonings that I've never even considered using before. I've rebooted the sugar and salt addictions that I had, and I've lost 120 pounds. And I've never upset myself. Thank you. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. All right, Keith, come on up. There he is. Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, I'm going to hang it up here. So it was a little after 6 a.m. I was playing on the ice. I was playing ice hockey, which I'd done 1 or 2 or 3 times a week for most of my adult life. Except this morning I started to feel something strange. I had a pressure on my chest, a shortness of breath, unusual shortness of breath. Came on when I exerted. When I relaxed and skated easier, it went away, so I just kind of took it easy for the rest of the hour and a half. Fortunately, a friend of mine had driven that day, and I was riding home with him, because on the way I started to feel that classic down the arm pain, and getting cold sweats, lightheaded. I said, "Take me right to the hospital." Took me to Providence, Novi, which is close to home. Called my wife. She came up and said, "You look gray." They gave me some nitroglycerin, got rid of most of the symptoms, put me in an ambulance and sent me over to Providence, Southfield. 2 days later, I had an angiogram. The lateral branch of the left anterior descending artery was 90% occluded, and they put in a stent. Went home, everything's fine. 6 months later, I had another angiogram, and I had what they call restenosis. It's blocked again. But there were no symptoms. So my cardiologist says, "We'll do watchful waiting." They gave me a card, a stent implant card. I'll get it out here. It's got a picture of the heart, the diagram, and it shows where the artery is, the stent. It's got the doctor's name and phone number in it, but importantly, it also had the date of the implant. That was March 25th, 1997. Not last year, not 2 years ago, not 5 years ago, 22 years ago, I had the implant. I've seen that cardiologist twice a year ever since. He's done echocardiograms, stress echocardiograms, all kinds of tests. And he says it doesn't look like I ever had an event, which was great news. Bad news, I've been on a statin for 22 years as well. I came into this organization, ran into it last year at the Veggie Fest out in Novi, and did some reading. Saw a presentation while I was there. I found out through this organization and some of my reading that I could get rid of the statin through diet. 22 years I've been on the statin. My cardiologist never once mentioned the option of a diet. So my first follow-up since starting on a program like this was last October. My cholesterol was down about 20 points. My weight was down about 7 or 8% from where it had been. So I'm making progress. My next test is next month. I'm hoping for continued good results. Folks, the evidence is incontrovertible. I think most of you know that. You just look around. I pulled an article from the Free Press 6 weeks ago called Playing Chicken. It says eating fried chicken weekly could lead to early death. Great, we don't want to do that. How about Consumer Reports? This is an October issue. It says, what's really in your meat? Banned drugs have been detected in beef, poultry, and pork. How did it get there? What are we going to do to get it off our plates? I got a suggestion, don't eat it. Because I actually heard a blurb this past week, a hospital in New York is actually using diet to start to treat the disease. I can't remember the name of the hospital. I do remember it was New York. You might be pretty healthy. You might not be overweight. You might think, I can eat however I want. Your own health might not be the reason to eat whole food, plant-based. Let me just give you 3 more real quick. How about farming and harvesting animals is cruel? Egg-laying chickens have to live in a space that's 67 square inches. It's about like that. They kill cattle, sending a pole through their head, and they don't always die on that first try. Piglets that are deformed or aren't going to grow or are very sick, they kill them by grabbing them by hind legs and swacking them on the cement until they're dead. It's not good. Number 2, environmental impact. Animal agriculture causes a 40% greater contribution to global warming than worldwide transportation. 1/3 of our land surface is dedicated to livestock. Farmed animals produce 130 times the waste of humans. That waste is 160 times more polluting than raw sewage, and there's no infrastructure to handle it. It's a big mess, folks. Number 3, feeding animals for food is inefficient. Hundreds of pounds of plants and hundreds of gallons of water are used to produce just 1 quarter pounder. I think I'd read that if we'd stop feeding plant food to animals and ate it ourselves, we'd get rid of world hunger. So whether it's for your own health, whether it's for the health of the animals, whether it's for our environment, whether it's for a noble cause of world hunger, there's plenty of reasons to eat whole food, plant-based. And from what I've seen, this organization can help us all do it. Thanks.
All right, we have break time with Shelley. Come on up, let's do some exercise. Where is Shelley? Come on, Shelley. Oh, Sharon. Wait, wait. Do we have Shelley Rubenstein? Oh, there she is. Oh, sorry, my program says you're next.
Okay. I'm Shelley Rubenstein, your fitness director for the group, and happy 5th birthday to PBNSG. Little did I realize, can you hear me? Should I go here? Okay. Little did I realize 5 years ago that the many wonderful people that would come into my life, giving me strength, support, and the knowledge to enjoy a plant-based lifestyle. We are a community, a non-judgmental one, and a loving one. Thank you all for this love and for always making me feel welcome. Taking charge of your nutrition is one step in achieving a healthy lifestyle. The next step is a regular fitness program. Exercise often terrifies and intimidates many people. Your body is made to move, and there are many ways to make it fun, and you'll experience one of those in a little bit. The good news about fitness is that it's never too late to begin. No matter what your age, you can begin gradually to improve your health and well-being by developing a fitness plan for you. Having success with your fitness plan requires patience and variety. Exercise should be fun, whether it's walking regularly, swimming, biking, gardening, or taking an exercise class appropriate for your age. Stamina and strength are increased in just over a few weeks of regular activity, not just once in a while. I believe and love what I do, and I try my best to take charge of my life, balancing work, family, fun, and leisure. So let's go ahead and move, and I forgot to get myself a plate. So you're getting some plates. And they're green. Why are they green? Why are they green? PBNSG and St. Patrick's Day. So anyhow, you probably want to stand up right now. I can hold this, right? Yes. Okay. So you probably want to stand. You've been sitting for a while. And there is room to spread out a little bit if you want. So we're going to move around with our arms. You don't really want to smack anyone, or maybe you do. So make sure you have a plate, because that's going to make it fun. Favorites, you're going to work on your balance. All right, here we go. Is that what they call a wardrobe malfunction? All right, good.
Siente que pierde el control. Jennifer Lopez. Escucha, baby, si solo supieras que tienes algo que me hace.
Okay, march again, marching. Okay, back to a knee lift. Then you're gonna tap to the side, tap right, tap left. Then do 2 taps, 1 and 2. How do you feel? All right, let's go ahead and march again. And we'll start calming down a little bit. All right, hold your plate. Take a big inhale. Lift your arms up. Exhale, bring your arms down. Again. Reach up. Lower down. Reach up. Keep your arms up. Bend to your right. Up, and the other side. One more time. This looks awesome. Back to center. Reach out. Turn. Turn again. So I thought if I had all this Latin music, I'd learn how to speak Spanish. I could say a little bit. And lower your arms. Circle your shoulders. Roll them forward. And step back with your right foot carefully. Step back. Pressing your heel down. This is a stretch, simple stretch for your leg. Push your arms forward. Reach up. Change sides, left foot back. Press your heel down. And up. Lower. Let's take another big inhale. Exhale all the way out. Good job, everybody. Yay. You can keep your plate. They're plastic. You can wipe it off and eat from it later. Thank you.
All right, let's see if this one's working. Yes, all right, let's hear for Shelley. Get us moving, thank you. All right, let's hear from Dinah. Dinah, come on down. Dinah's not, you're filling in for Dinah? Okay, thank you so much.
Right, balance isn't my strong suit. Thank you. Hi, well, Dinah couldn't make it this evening. I'm her husband, and I'm the person that she was going to talk about behind my back. About 5 years ago, I was a patient at Henry Ford Hospital, and my wife was working in ophthalmology there. And there was a gentleman by the name of Paul and Dr. Esselstyn that were speaking in grand rounds one of those days that I was there. And my wife went down to listen. And she came up to my room later on and said, "Jake, you don't have to go through that second bypass surgery in 5 years." I was like, "Yeah, right, we know it's coming." I'd had one 10 years ago, knew another one was coming in about 5 years. That's about the length they said it would take before you needed a redo. And she goes, "No, you can just stop eating the junk we eat." And so I got out, read Dr. Esselstyn's book, and thought, we can probably do this. We went to the pbnsg.org meetings and got inspired to really give this a try. And at the time, being a type 1 diabetic, I've just had destruction to most of my vascular system and my heart over the years, and had some problems with my eyes. So I go to see an ophthalmologist every year, and they take the photos of my eyes, and I had diabetic retinopathy starting, and something called macular edema, which is some kind of a swelling in the back of my eye. And they said, well, we can start doing injections to solve this, as well as laser surgery to get rid of the extra growth of vascular vessels in my eyes, and that should hopefully solve the problem. Well, I said, okay, we can do the laser thing. There ain't no way you're sticking a needle in my eye. That's just not happening. And he said, well, you can carry on the way you're going and we'll watch and see what happens. A year ago, after being on a plant-based diet for 4 years, I went and had the photos done, and the macular edema has totally disappeared, gone. So my ophthalmologist sort of told me, that doesn't usually happen. We don't see it very often, and if it can be attributed to the plant-based diet, keep doing what you're doing. So we are going to continue doing what we're doing, as well as I wound up going in about 2 years ago for a cardiac cath, and they figured, okay, we're coming into the time frame for the next bypass. And when the doctor looked around in there, he said, we have one little section that needs a stent, but the rest of your blood vessels don't look anything like what they did 4 years ago. They're really clean now. Just keep doing what you're doing. We haven't made a believer out of that cardiologist, but we're working on them. And so from there on, we'll just keep doing the plant-based diet, and we try to cheat as little as we can. I do it for health reasons, and my wife does it for the terrible husbandry that we see in our nation with the animals. So together we can put together the diet and stick to it. It's more of a lifestyle than a diet. Thank you. I got it. Yeah. Got it? Yeah. Going down's easier than
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. It's amazing when you feed yourself the right food, what can happen. So thanks for the inspiration. And Brett, come on up, Brett.
All right, man, now that I'm sweating. My name is Brett Nyquist. I'm 30 years old, and I'm the Director of Technology for PBNSG. Thank you. I met Paul and became affiliated with PBNSG about 1.5 years ago, but that's not where my plant-based journey actually began. I grew up eating, Kogel's hot dogs and hamburgers on the George Foreman grill and spaghetti with ground beef and pizza, steak, chicken, scallops. I mean, the standard American diet and a lot of fast food. And one of my favorite meals was like a McDonald's breakfast on a Sunday morning. I thought that was like the best thing ever. And that way of eating followed me into my teenage years and into my early 20s. But in my early 20s, I began to drink alcohol pretty heavily, just partied with my friends. And at that point, I was becoming pretty overweight, tired, sluggish, just didn't feel good, like was getting more sick than I've ever been in my life. And I just kept doing it. I just shrugged it off, like I didn't think anything of it. And then I met my partner, Nicole, at 23 years old. And when I met her, she continued to party with me, continued to drink alcohol, ate more fast food than I had before, and she started to gain some weight. We were never really like overweight people, but we just started to gain weight like super quick. And she started to feel tired and sluggish and just not very good on a daily basis either. So we both decided, okay, we're going to kick the drinking, we're going to kick the fast food, and we're going to go to the gym. And when I say go to the gym, we were going like once or twice a week, barely, like for like 40 minutes, and we'd be like, yeah, no. So when we did that, we lost like a couple pounds, but it wasn't anything significant, and we were still feeling pretty tired, sick, sluggish, just not really a lot of changes. So at that point, we decided to get rid of the red meat. We had been reading a little bit, so we thought, okay, we'll get rid of the red meat. We'll switch to chicken and fish. We started doing portion control and eating some fruits and vegetables. And when I say some, like barely. And when we did that, once again, like we were still eating like cheese and dairy too. And when we did that, once again, we lost a couple pounds, but it wasn't anything like crazy at all. And we were still feeling sick. I mean, just tired, no energy. Like we would sleep 8 hours and get up and just feel terrible in our 20s. So we felt pretty lost at that point. And I remember in September 2015, specifically, we had put like turkey bacon in the oven. We sat down to watch Netflix, and we saw a documentary called Cowspiracy. And we watched that documentary front to back. And when it was over, we threw the turkey bacon away. And we were like, okay, we're 100% vegan. That's it. So we purged our kitchen. We started Googling vegan recipes. And we went grocery shopping for vegan meals. And we pretty much just ran away with it. Like we just cooked more and more at home. And within the first 6 to 8 months, I lost 20 pounds. And Nicole lost 15 pounds. And we were just feeling amazing all the time, like a lot of energy. It was a complete difference. But not only was it like we felt better, but we knew the impact we were making on the environment, and we were also saving animals' lives. So it was just a triple win-win-win. We did that for a little bit, and as I did that, I did more and more research on health and nutrition in regards to a vegan diet, and that's when I read about Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Joel Foreman, and the whole food plant-based lifestyle. So when I read that, I was like, okay, we're going to cut the oils. So we cut the oils, we got rid of the vegan junk food, and it was almost immediate. I lost another 15 pounds, and she lost another 20 pounds. Like, we couldn't believe it. And together, combined, we've lost over 70 pounds. It's been amazing. Like, I would never go back to the standard American diet ever, because I remember how bad I felt in my 20s. Like, you shouldn't feel that bad because you're young. I can honestly say, like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without her by my side. Like, there's no way. And it's so much easier to make the transition when you have a support system. And like at PBNSG, that's really what we're all about. We just want to provide support, community. That's why we do what we do. And I just have to take a moment and thank Paul, because, dude, without you, nobody would be here tonight. So thank you, and thank you all.
Tinkering with the technology again there. He just can't help himself. And Brad, thank you. That's a great story and all that it represents. Dr. Allen, come on up.
Hi. My name is Alan Kalmus. I'm a podiatrist. I'm a board-certified foot and ankle surgeon. I do not want to see any of your feet, so please don't take your shoes off. I've already had one offer. When I was growing up, I grew up in Oak Park, Michigan, and my mother used to cook with schmaltz. If any of you know what that is, it's rendered chicken fat with a lot of salt and onions. And it was delicious. It wasn't good for you, but it was delicious. So I got schmaltzy. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're not Jewish, you may have gotten porky. It's the same thing. So I grew up that way. There's pictures of me in a swimming pool. There's pictures of me in a swimming pool now. But I always loved to swim, probably because I was pretty much weightless. The whole idea of plant-based nutrition was so foreign to me. It was just outrageous. It's like, there's no way. Common sense. You have to have a little bit of meat. You got to have some chicken. You got to have some oil, eggs, shrimp, all the good stuff. And it's just plain wrong. You don't. I haven't had a bite of meat in over 5 years, thanks to Dr. Khan, who kind of pointed me in the right direction. And I thought he was an idiot. I thought, that's just stupid. You can't possibly be telling me the truth. And no, he was telling me the truth. He was right. So I went from 284 pounds to 174 pounds. Yeah, thank you. And it was effortless. I was never hungry. I ate as much as I wanted. I got tweaked along the way. I had a bad habit of just going to the grocery store and I'd buy plants, but sometimes it would be things like a bag full of nuts. For $5.99 at Kroger, you get a pound of nuts. There's a whole lot of calories in there. You think you can eat anything you want, as much as you want, because you're plant-based, and you're wrong. You can't do it. You got to still be careful what you're eating. But you can eat as many apples as you want, right? That's right. And I tried all the other stuff. I mean, I joined Weight Watchers, and one of the meetings was hilarious. I'm sitting there not saying anything, and the lady's up front. She's saying, you can eat as many apples as you want. You can eat this, you can eat that. And one lady puts up her hand, and she says, how many apples is too many apples? The Weight Watcher lady looks at her like she's just stupid. And she says, honey, you ain't here because you ate too many apples. Yeah. Anyway, so at 284 pounds, I really didn't have any energy. I was a couch potato. I would just lay there watching TV. And I literally couldn't get up off the couch by myself. I would have to either roll off the couch onto the floor, get on all fours, and stand up, or my wife would grab my hands and pull me, and I would get up that way. And I was pretty much just eating my way to death. And I was aware of it, but it didn't really sink in until my next door neighbor, Gil, died suddenly of a heart attack. And I love that guy. Anyway, when I lost Gil, I got kind of scared. I thought, well, what if I'm next? And then the same year, my cousin, my first cousin, who was 5 years older than me, I was 57 or so at the time, 56, he passed away of a heart attack. He's 5 years older than me. He was never heavy. He was active. He played hockey. He jogged, and he went cross-country skiing all winter long, which I don't understand because he lived in Austin, Texas. But his wife was from Australia, and she went back to Australia because there's a second marriage for both of them. Her daughter was having a baby, and she wanted to go back and help her for the last month of her pregnancy. And they talk on the phone every night, and one day he wasn't answering, and she figured, well, big time difference and everything. I'll just talk to him tomorrow, and she went to bed. And the next day she tried to get in touch with him and wasn't answering, so she called his first wife, who they were still friends with, and she still lived in the same area, and said, could you just go check, see if there's cars in the driveway? And it was, so they called the police, and he was dead on the floor. And that's my first cousin. I mean, we share a lot of genes, and I thought, uh-oh, you know, that's the second signal that I got to do something. So I started paying more attention to Dr. Khan's stuff. He's just writing stuff on plant-based nutrition on his Facebook page. I mean, we go back a long way. His brother was my roommate in college, and I've known him probably middle school, probably 13, 14 years old, and he was actually dating his current wife at the time. Anyway, his brother always said he's the smartest guy you'll ever meet in your life, and he was 4 years younger than his brother, so you know that's saying a lot for get that kind of compliment from an older brother. And I still thought, nah, that can't be true, the vegetable thing. So he kept on saying, you got to watch Forks Over Knives. Just watch it, and I just didn't. And it probably took me about 6 months until I finally got around to sitting down and watching it. And it really opened my eyes. So I went from, there's no freaking way I'm ever going to do this, to, oh, crap, I have to do this. I don't want to leave my wife dead on the floor somewhere. I don't want to have a stroke and have her taking care of me. I got to get in shape. And it isn't the exercise. We would, I mean, if I went into a room with pizza, only one of us was leaving. So we changed over. I mean, my wife didn't change her eating style, and I did. So any of you who think you can't do it because you don't have family support, you can. I'm living proof of that. So I learned to cook. I learned to shop. I learned to read labels. Thanks to PBNSG, I didn't know what I was looking at. I was pretty much still buying packaged vegan junk food and not realizing how much fat there is in those fake burgers and in all the packaged stuff, the fake cheeses. There's a lot of oil and fat in all those things, and they're just not healthy. So anyway, I switched over, and in 2 months, I lost 40 pounds. And that never happened to me before. I mean, that just was phenomenal. And that was still couch potato. I still didn't do any exercise. So in about, 18 months, I had lost 100 pounds. And it was still falling off. I thought, thank you. And so I'm at a family barbecue, and I wasn't eating anything, but trust me on that. One of my nieces, who is she runs half marathons like weekly. She invited me. She said, "You got to run with me. You look great. You got to run with me." And I said, "You're crazy." I said, "I don't run. I barely walk, and running is punishment. I mean, high school football. What'd you have to do if you did something wrong? You had to go run laps, right? That's punishment." So anyway, she says, "Well, come run a 5K with me." And I said, "I don't want to run 5 feet with you. Leave me alone." So she was persistent. She says, "Well, if you sign up, part of the fee means you get a free T-shirt, and if you just finish the finish line, you don't have to go fast. You get a shiny medal." I said, "Oh, I get a shiny medal? I'm in." So that got her off my back for a while, but I thought, you know what, maybe I'll really do it. And so I just went out and just walked the dog until the dog got tired, and then I put him back in the house with my wife, and I kept going. And before you knew it, within a couple of months, I'm running 5K comfortably, 3.1 miles. And I just kept going. So we went to that race that she was talking about, and in that 3 months, I lost an additional 10 pounds, so down 110 pounds. So what does that tell you? You lose 100 pounds by eating correctly. You don't exercise it off. I wasn't doing anything. And I only lost another 10. I mean, I still got some to go, but I lost another 10 by running 5K 3 times a week, every week, and then I would swim a mile after I would do the 5K because we happen to live in a condo with a really huge pool. So it didn't cost anything. I'm really cheap, too. So one of the criteria of me changing over was I didn't want to spend a lot of money. This is actually cheaper than buying animal products. I didn't want to have any pain, so I wasn't about to go in for any surgery, and I wanted it to be safe. I decided I don't want to die. So, probably a good decision. And so this meets all those criteria for me. It made me very happy. How many of you people are new here? Can I see a show of hands? Yeah, okay. Well, congratulations. You realize you got a problem and you're here trying to do something about it. I'm telling you, this is the cheapest, easiest way to go, and because I'm really cheap and I'm really easy. So I wish you all a lot of luck, but I mean, you get results. I mean, you really do. And there's no way around it. You can't help yourself. And I can't stop talking, so bye.
Thanks, Doc. You're great. Thank you. As a family physician for 33 years, this is what I see. People who are at this fork in the road, choosing health, vitality, longevity, and those who don't. And the consequences are not good. So thanks, Doc. You're an inspiration. Sharon Matthews, come on up. There's Sharon. I've seen you before.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sharon Matthews, and I assure you I'm going to be the most boring presenter. And the reason why I'm going to be the most boring presenter, because I really don't have anything dramatic to tell you about my health, because right out of college, in 1983, 36 years ago, I became whole food plant-based. At that time, it was referred to primarily as macrobiotic. As a result of that, I've had no health issues. In addition to that, I do not have a scale. I do not weigh myself. I do have an amazing doctor, Dr. Breaky, who I go see once a year, and we just have a nice visit, right? Because I don't have any abnormal test results. It sounds really chic, whole food, plant-based, but this is a human diet. And we shouldn't be spending all of our time being sick. It's sad when you hear people are depressed, have anxiety, don't want to get out of bed, addicted to opioids. And I'm a healthcare administrator, and I made the decision when I was managing the operating rooms and the emergency rooms and the ambulatory surgeries. When I saw all the sickness and disease in the hospital, I said, I do not want to go there. And then I ran into a doctor who told me about eating a whole food plant-based diet. She introduced me to a lot of resources. I went to a lot of lectures. And so the way to go with this is that you only have one void, and that is a resource void. But plant-based nutrition support groups fills that void. It's very important to get knowledge and information so that you will do this properly, so that you won't end up with deficiencies. And so I just want you to go board with me. It will be the most exciting thing you've ever done. Thanks.
One of our quality indicators is we make sure that every visit to review the patient's medications, because that's important. Well, she's boring on that too. No meds, right, Sharon? The average, 70% of adults are on one or another medication, and it's great to not need them or have the apparent side effects or costs. So next, someone who probably needs no introduction, the famous Matthew Chatelain. Come on down.
Wow, hi everyone. It's really cool to hear all the love from my father that goes on here every day. So, in talking about myself, and Nicole asked me, Matt, Nicole's going to be talking next, were you ever going to do this without him? And the answer for me, as much as I might want to say, of course I would have, no, I would never have done this without him too. So I feel like let's talk about some fun stories of Paul Chatelain. So my dad kind of growing up, I shouldn't say kind of, my dad growing up, he was a single guy. So he was single and he had 2 children, one of which was me and the other was my brother. And so in his mid-30s, we kind of like joking to each other now. I like to remember him as being shorter and bigger. So I put him at about 5'5", 270 back then. But he was probably, 5'5", 220, but incredibly strong. Right, and very much into sports. And really you saw that in his kids. He would coach us in almost anything that we would do. So imagine this life. He would go to work, he would come home, he would coach us doing something, and then in between that, he had to feed us. And two fond memories I have of that are, we didn't love Hungry Howie's, but the combination of chicken wings and pizza was our absolute favorite. And we liked it so much that us Chatelain men would huddle around the chicken wing box and draft each chicken wing individually because we all wanted the best one. So that was a kind of a fun thing that we would do together. And, again, he being the single guy that he was, and I don't know what background he had in cooking to that point, he had to cook us, meals if he wasn't getting this great Hungry Howie's pizza. So anytime he would feed us anything, he would follow it up with, this tastes so good. And that kind of joke I hear him do every day here. So that's pretty great to hear. So I really believe that, so much of this community, has really been affected by my father, and I love that. I know one of the goals he had from PBNSG day one was to make an effect on his children and on the community around him. So I think today we can, officially say that has absolutely happened. Great. So a little bit more too about me, and to talk about myself. I will definitely want to talk about entrepreneurialism. And really kind of what I see is really such a huge motivator for me. I'm sure it's a motivator for some others, and kind of just what's going to happen. So I've heard a lot of people touch on this, and Dr. Breaky being one of them. And, I kind of see this world as inevitable. So what I mean by that is we've all talked about there's certain motivations that get us this way. Is it our personal health? So what that means is when we eat animals, we get sicker, right? Or is it the environment? Well, when we farm and do these things with these animals, well, it hurts the environment. Or is it cows or the destruction of chickens or all these other terrible things that happen to animals when we eat them? All those things work as great motivation to us. At the same time, I would challenge anyone in this room to come up with creatures, and I love using humans as especially the strongest example for this, that run to their own eventual death. It is pretty silent in here because there isn't one, right? It is an inevitability, meaning if we continue on this path of eating an animal-rich diet that sees the environment die, animals die, and us slowly die, there's simply no way of that continuing. So while there is some choice to that fact, we could choose to go down that, I would challenge anyone to figure a time in American history, a time in human history, a time where any creature has made that choice because it doesn't exist. Some other things that are really working in our favor. I love Dr. Breaky. I love Dr. Khan. And I know that there's only one of each of them, which is great. And fortunately, they both get to be here. At the same time, I think both of them would rightly admit there has never been a time now where more doctors are talking to their patients about how to eat healthy in this world, right? I saw a great ad that someone shared about doctors recommending Camel cigarettes in the 1950s because they were healthy. Dr. Breaky touched on that, kind of we don't know what we didn't know then. What we're learning all of this now, the reason why these doctors are able to tell the patients more and more about this way being the healthier way to eat is because there's more studies that went on. The China study might have been the first one that a lot of us saw, and I know it was the first one I saw, but there's been many, many more since. And those many more continue to support the facts that these doctors, are kind of telling us on a daily basis. So when it comes to kind of my way of eating and my way of eating, when it comes to the whole food plant-based way of eating, I definitely wanted to thank my father. And in so, though, I feel like I have to thank everyone here at PBNSG. As much as I know that there would not be a Matt Chatelain, I got to talk to about myself in third person. Much as there wouldn't be me eating a whole food plant-based diet, I don't know if my dad would have been able to stick to this whole food plant-based diet if it wasn't for all of you, making it so that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. So thank you very much. I hope all of you continue to eat this way, and know that if you don't, the future is inevitable. Thanks.
You know, Matt mentioned entrepreneurship, and he's going to found a new restaurant called Gladiator Veg, all whole food, plant-based. Let's hear it for entrepreneurship that spreads health. All right, Nicole. Thanks. Come on down.
All right, I'm Nicole. Every time that I think about when I transitioned in my plant-based journey, honestly, I think about community, and that's because I didn't have one. So it's about 9 years ago, I started my journey, not totally plant-based. I've been whole food plant-based for about 5 years now. However, sorry, was I not supposed to be up here? Oh, okay, sorry. So anyways, by the time I was 20, I had mono, then shingles, and then diverticulitis and colitis, ulcerative colitis, and that's what woke me up. And I was terrified of eating anything. I grew up as a figure skater, so I thought that meant I was healthy because I was in the rink all the time. But my diet primarily was out of vending machines and concession stands, and it just wasn't working. And so doctors weren't giving me any answers, and so I decided to learn and teach myself, and luckily all the documentaries out there were there, and that was my community. But seeing this here and being a part of PBNSG and seeing everything that Paul has created is so amazing. And I do a small group in Sterling Heights, so if you're around that area, come hang out and we can talk about plant-based eating and what it can mean. But you all have a community, and healing is so much more fun with other people, and it makes it, just go so much further. And it truly is a blessing and so inspiring to hear all the stories here today, but also inspiring for the people who are new and are just interested in hearing what people have to say. So I just want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate being here.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Jim Bella. There he is.
Hello, PBNSG. How are you? First of all, I'd like to thank Tim and Heather Kaufman. Thanks for making the long trip, coming out to see us, and all the other incredible speakers that spoke before me. Once upon a time, December 2009, I went to work like every other day, and that particular day I happened to slip on the floor and I landed on a wire brush. Didn't think anything of it. A little later, I felt something poking me, and I pulled out a wire. It was stuck in the back of my leg. And didn't think anything else about it. That night, went home, and we got a call from the hospital. One of my family members was dying, and we had to go say our last goodbye. So we went to the hospital, and we went to the ICU. They warned us that there was infections going on, staph infections, MRSA, and they said, if you have any open wounds or anything, you might not want to go in. I didn't think anything about getting poked in the rear by a wire brush bristle. So I went in, said our goodbyes. 3 days later, I've got like a pimple on the back of my leg. I didn't think anything of it. That's a weird place for a pimple. The next day, it got bigger. It was like half the size of a golf ball. I was concerned. Then I waited another day, and now it's swelled up to the size of like a tennis ball. And I said, well, I better go in. So I went and seen my doctor, and the doctor's like, Jim, you go to the hospital right now. You've got a big abscess. They might have to amputate your leg. And I was just freaking out by then. So I ran up to the emergency room, and I was just kind of like in shock. They warned me when I signed in that they might have to amputate my leg, and I don't really remember much after that. I woke up 23 days later after 26 operations, where every day they went in and they were taking more infection, and more infection out of my leg. By the time I woke up, I can remember seeing my whole thigh bone. All the meat around it was gone. They had removed half my colon. They had to take out some of my upper intestines. I passed away a few times. 7 months after that, I finally got out of the hospital. They sent me home, and now I'm a diabetic. They gave me blood pressure medications. They said my cholesterol was high. Now, since I couldn't go to the bathroom the correct way because my colon and parts of my intestines are missing, I had a bunch of medications that I had to take just to go to the bathroom normally. And I still had to run to go to the bathroom 8 to 20 times a day. I couldn't even walk out of the house unless I had a bathroom nearby. And I lived this way for 5 years. Fast forward, it's November 22nd, 2015, about 5 years after I got out of the hospital. And now I weigh 330 pounds. I'm taking 130 units of insulin. I'm on 7 other medications. I feel terrible. I can't get up and even go to work anymore, having a hard time climbing a ladder. I have to hire somebody new. I've got 3 guys working for me now because I can't perform like I used to. So we started the day like any other day, and we put a YouTube podcast on. I don't remember what we were listening to, but the next podcast that came on happened to be Dr. John McDougall. And we were working, didn't stop to turn that podcast off, even though we weren't interested in it. And I started listening, and I'm like, Jim, this guy makes a lot of sense. He says diabetes is caused by diet, high blood pressure, cholesterol. I'm like, man, you can do this. That was like my aha moment. I listened to that and was so inspired after an hour, I threw my lunch away. I went up to Kroger's, and I bought myself a bunch of fruit. And I started 100% that day. That was November 22nd, 2015. Never looked back since. 3 days after starting the plant-based diet, this leg that swelled up every single day for the past 5 years quit swelling up. It hasn't swelled up since. 3 days on a plant-based diet. Couldn't believe it. The 4th day, my stomach has been problems, constantly running to the bathroom for 5 years. All the problems are gone on the 4th day. I was, excuse me. I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. Ten days later, still on the diet, couldn't believe it, enjoying everything that happened, and I'm losing weight. I get up in the morning, and I check my diabetes, check my sugar level, and it was normal. I'm like, this can't be true. So I went up to the cupboard, and I got some new test strips, and I tested myself. Again, it was normal. I'm like, this meter's got to be wrong. I actually drove up to CVS, and I bought a new meter and new test strips, and I tested it, and my sugar's 90. I'd just been on 130 units of insulin every day for 10 years, and now in 10 days, I don't need a shot. I haven't taken a shot of insulin since then. 14 days later, after starting the plant-based diet, I wake up and I'm really groggy. I can barely get out of bed. Right away, I run to the diabetes meter and I check. My sugar is down at about 80. And I said, maybe I'll check my blood pressure. I had a blood pressure cuff. I was still on all my medication for blood pressure. My blood pressure dropped to like 90 over 50. So I was still taking all the heavy doses of the medication, so I just stopped taking the meds. So in 10 days, I was off, or 14 days, I'm sorry, I was off 6 of the 7 medications that I was taking. Unbelievable, and I was feeling great, and I was losing weight. So 14 months later, I lost half my body weight, lost 164 pounds, and I would never go back. My life is totally different. I go home after working 12 or 13 hours a day, 14 hours, and I can't sit still. I have to go out and walk 4 miles a day, and my dog loves me for it. That's my story. Thanks for listening.
All right. Wow. This is the power of just getting to the root cause, of eliminating the underlying cause, and the body goes into healing mode. So thank you, Jen. Let's go to Tom Jackson. Tom, come on down.
Thank you very much. Well, I was one of those, by the way, good evening. I wrote down plant fantastic friends and guests. I'm Tom Jackson. I was one of those, boy, these are bright lights. I was one of those that I thought was eating correctly all the time. I thought I was exercising enough all the time. I was exercising primarily because I have a terrible family history. I have a father who had triple bypass surgery before he was 50 and died of pancreatic cancer in his mid-70s. I have a mother who died of a brain aneurysm at 71, just a couple years older than I am now. I have a sister who died of ovarian cancer in her 50s. I have a brother who's still fighting the battle with bladder cancer, 2 stents, and all kinds of medication. I've got 2 first cousins who are morbidly obese. So I was I was planning to do this exercise and was always big in exercise. I go 4,000 miles on my bike a year. I'm big on exercise. I thought I had no health issues at all. So really fast forward to about 8 years ago. I go to my physical. The doc says, we got to put you on statin drugs. Well, why do you have to put me on statin drugs? He said, well, it's the best medicine that we have. I said, really? It didn't make much sense to me. So I'm on the statin drugs. You know what it does? It damages my muscles. My muscles were getting screwed up. I had, what did I put on my little sheet? Anyway, I had lots of other aches and pains, right? So statin drugs were not good for me. Fast forward about a couple of years, I'm thinking, I got to get off this stuff. So I'm thinking, maybe it would make sense for me to ask my doc, since he didn't suggest it, ask my doc if maybe we can do a little test to see how my heart's doing. Makes sense to me, right? So we did. It's a test that looked at the amount of plaque buildup and the amount of calcification in your arteries. Test results come back. If there's any doctors in the building, which I know there are, my number was 768. We've got a cardiology nurse or 2. Pretty bad number, pretty awful number, because 400 means that I have significant cardiovascular disease with a high probability of within the next 5 years having a significant cardiac event. Thinking, really? I asked for this because I was looking to get off statin drugs. There was no other reason. So then I said to my doc, well, how about we check and see how my heart's functioning? I've had no experience with any heart issues. So we do a stress test. I passed that with absolutely, flying colors. So doesn't make much sense. Vessels are shrinking, right? Blood flow should be crappy, right? But yet my blood flow is terrific. Didn't make much sense. My doctor didn't make much sense of it either. Fast forward to about 2.5 years ago. This was after a church service, Sunday morning. We're in coffee hour. That happens after church. Sometimes it's my favorite part of church, by the way. And so one of the people that come up to visit me is one of the docs from my practice. I had talked to her before. It's very possible I had physical on that Thursday, and I make a big deal about that with my doc, trying to get me off these statin drugs, again, always saying, this is the best medicine that we have. Thinking, I don't think that's correct. Anyway, so she says, those cookies are filled with statin drugs. What? She thought she was being very funny. I don't think that's very funny, but she thought she was being very funny. I said, Martha, do you know any more holistic cardiologists? And guess what? She did. Any guesses who that might be? Any guesses? Real quick. Dr. Khan. So I schedule an appointment with Dr. Khan on Monday. We go through my health history. He's very attentive. He's typing all his notes down in his note thing. He's asking great questions. He goes over to a different part of his office on a whiteboard. He explains how I can have great blood flow with crappy clogged up arteries. It's called collateral vascular growth. Does that sound right? Does that sound right? It sounds right. I got a nod over there, so it sounds right. So that's good. He gives me two things. He passes me the Forks Over Knives book, or DVD, right? So I get that, and I told him I would watch it that night. And then he gives me the most transforming book, besides the Bible, the most transformative book that I have ever read. And guess what it is? It's Dr. Esselstyn's book about, prevent and reverse cardiac or heart disease, right? So I look at what the requirements are. It's on page 10 or 11. It's early in the book. I'm thinking, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And I did that. And he said, you can get off of statin drugs. I said, well, now I'm for sure going to do that. So I did. I never looked back. I lost 40 pounds. Total cholesterol is fantastic. Blood pressure is fantastic. Inflammation is 0. So it worked well for me. Very appreciative of Paul and his group, the PBNSG people. My small group in Ann Arbor I attend every single month. I'm so pleased that Paul's being able to reach thousands and thousands of people that didn't get the word. And I'm glad I finally did. So thank you very much.
Good job. Cori Oliver. Come on down, Cori.
Hello, my name's Cori. I am a cardiac nurse at Royal Oak Beaumont, and my journey with PBNSG started probably about 5 years ago, about the time this organization started. I had the pleasure of taking care of some of Joel Kahn's patients in the hospital, and I got to know him pretty well. Although I never really spoke to him about diet, but when I was first a cardiac nurse, we'd have to work midnight shift, and when we were slow, I would go wander around the hospital, kill time. Well, one of those days, I was walking downstairs, and I saw one of his books that was being shown in the showcase. It was, what is that first one he wrote about the reverse heart disease with plant-based nutrition? I can't remember the exact title, but I'm like, that's interesting. So I started looking into plant-based nutrition, and I didn't really get an aha moment until I started working in the cardiac cath lab, which I've been there for about 3.5, almost 4 years now. I remember the big moment for me was when I had this patient that he had been vegan for 8 years, and he went vegan because he had a stent, and he had another artery that was about 60% blocked. And if you know anything about cardiology in the cath lab, they don't usually fix vessels unless they're 70% blocked or more. So his cardiologist had brought him back because he was having some pains, which ended up being something else. But anyways, he had his cath, and he was really nervous. I was his nurse, and he's like, you know what? If I have to have another stent, I'm going to go out and I'm going to eat a cheeseburger, because this vegan stuff must be a bunch of crap. And they did the angiogram, and that stent, or that vessel that was 65% blocked, looked better. And even the cardiologist afterwards, he was telling him, he's like, well, how are my vessels looking? He's like, you know what? They actually look a little bit better. And so the patient says, well, you think maybe it's my diet? I've been vegan for 8 years. And he goes, I don't know about that. And that's when I decided personally that I needed to educate myself more for my patients. I went through Dr. Colin Campbell's class online. I'm plant-based nutrition certified for over 2 years. And also I did the Ruby cooking class from Forks Over Knives. So I'm continuing to educate myself so I can educate my patients. Some of them are actually taking it seriously, others don't. But I think over time that more of them are going to start accepting this. I had the pleasure of going to the Cleveland Clinic this weekend with my mother. We went to the Nutrition, Prevent, Reverse Heart Disease, and Vascular Dementia Conference. It was amazing. But come to find out, there was another conference at my own hospital that was about prevention. They didn't talk a lot about plant-based nutrition, but apparently they opened up the subject of it. So that's very encouraging to me. So I've had a couple of people at work come to me and ask me, you know, they talked a little bit about nutrition at this conference this weekend. What do you think about, because I know that you're into plant-based nutrition. So it's very exciting. I'm hoping that everybody takes it on eventually and we can live without disease. Thanks.
All right, and last but not least, Lisa Smith. Lisa, come on down.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lisa A. Smith, and I am 95 years old. I will most likely be the most eldest at Dr. Breaky's party. So I'm Lisa A. Smith, and I used to be 65 pounds heavier than what I am now. However, my story is quite unique in that when I lost weight, I was still eating meat and dairy, so I got motivated by simply walking past a mirror, and I was simply insecure in my body. I was unhappy with what I saw every single day. And so in January of 2012, I decided to hire a coach. And at that time, I thought exercise was the best way to reach my goals, and it turns out I wasn't 100% wrong. However, I've learned since then that the absence of disease is not the presence of health. And so I began at that time to lose weight. And much like Sharon, my story is quite boring in that I was not pre-hypertensive or pre-diabetic. My family doesn't have a history of heart disease or cancer. However, I was motivated by aesthetics. And I've been very proud since that time and since losing weight of, going mountain climbing in Thailand and going up the Sanding Bear Dunes mountains on a bed. And in the better part of the past 6 years, living in a 5th floor walk-up and being able to do that multiple times a day, over 95 steps, without huffing and puffing. However, the biggest benefit that I found being whole foods plant-based in the last 4 years has been my cognitive health. And while everyone has impressed upon you the physical benefits and the chronic disease prevention and lifestyle, I'm sure you're 100% convinced at this point. But one thing that I want to drive home is this: my mind. Full time, I run 2 health and wellness companies, and my ability to do that, I 100% attribute to my diet and my lifestyle. I'm a whole foods plant-based vegan, and I cannot tell you my ability to recall, my ability to problem solve, my memory, my mood, my attitude, and my compassion has increased significantly. And when I tell you my cognitive functioning has been the biggest benefit of this lifestyle, I am not lying, because up until very recently, I didn't have a physical product in my company. I sell this. People literally pay me for what's in my mind, and my ability to take stages and recall content, numbers, facts, information, my ability to run the PBNSG Detroit small group every month and answer everyone's questions just from studying all the time and being able to retain that information, understanding that sugar is the #1 cause of Alzheimer's and not age, understanding that the way we sleep, the way we think, and our ability to perform every day cognitively is heavily impacted by what's on the end of our fork is what has been the most moving and motivating for me. So I encourage you, as you listen to these stories and as we continue to age and reverse, that although your body and your aesthetics and the absence of medications is quite great, and when you get there, you're going to think, why should I continue to do this, right, other than feeling so great? But I want you to remember that your mind is your most valuable asset, and there is no doubt in my mind that a whole foods plant-based diet has been the biggest benefit to keep this intact. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Breaky.
Great job, thank you. Wow. Wow, what an inspiring set of speakers. Earlier on I talked about how PBNSG is growing quickly, and someday we'll look back and say only 2 million members. Well, we're on the verge of that, actually. PBNSG is about to go national. As Paul and I head down to the PPOD meeting in Raleigh, North Carolina this May, the world of folks from all over the country who will be at that meeting will hear his inspiring story, will understand that PBNSG has built a statewide network now of over 6,000 members, and they'll say, I want that where we are. So you all are at the center, at the nidus of a group that is about to become nationally known and will be a big part of that movement that helps to improve the world for our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. Thank you all.